Hey everybody, this is Marcus with the Best Buy blog. Today I'll be reviewing two of SteelSeries' newest keyboards, the Apex Pro and the Apex 7. I'm going to be talking about their similarities, their build, features, as well as what makes the Apex Pro so special. So let's start off with some of the similarities of the keyboards. Actually, there are more similarities between the Apex 7 and the Apex Pro than there are differences. In fact, SteelSeries' website states that the Apex 7 and Pro share all of the same features except for one thing, the key switches. So the Apex 7 comes with either brown, red, or blue switches, whereas the Apex Pro comes with SteelSeries OmniPoint switches, which is something we're going to discuss later. Now, when we're talking about the build of the Apex 7 and the Apex Pro, if you put them side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart. They share the same dimensions, weight, and have no distinguishing marks or identifiers. Both the Apex 7 and the Apex Pro have an aluminum surface on the top and a plastic carriage underneath. On the top right-hand side of the keyboards, you're going to find the OLED screen as well as the media controls. And on the top left-hand side here, you'll see there's a USB pass-through port. On the bottom of the keyboard, you're going to find soft touch-coated feet for grip. And to really make sure these keyboards don't slip, there are 3 rubber pads along the front bottom of the keyboards. A feature that I really liked about the SteelSeries Apex 7 and Apex Pro is the 3-channel cable routing along the bottom of the keyboard. This gives you the flexibility to manage your cables according to your desk layout. In terms of wrist rest, the Apex 7 and Apex Pro both have a magnetic wrist rest. I like this because it attaches with this really satisfying click and immediately lines up with the rest of the keyboard. In terms of the coating of the wrist rest, it is a soft touch coating as well, which gives you additional grip and just has this nice comfy feel to it when you rest your wrist on it. When we're talking about the keycaps of the Apex 7 and the Apex Pro, they both sport ABS printed keycaps. So these keycaps are made of a single layer of plastic with a printed label on top. The downside of this type of keycap is that they are prone to wear, and when they do start to wear, they can become shiny, and the labels can start to fade as well. Personally, I would have preferred if SteelSeries used double-shot PBT keycaps. These keycaps use 2 layers of plastic mold, they do not have printed labels, and are more durable. Thankfully, all of the keycaps on the Apex 7 and Apex Pro are actually replaceable, so if you're keen on swapping them, you can do that to your heart's content. When talking about the compatibility of the Apex 7 and the Apex Pro, these are compatible with PC, Mac, Xbox One, as well as PlayStation 5. They connect to these devices via 2 USB connectors. The first USB connects power to the keyboard, and the second USB is a pass-through USB for the port on the top left-hand side of the keyboard. Alright, let's talk about one of my favorite things on these keyboards. It's the OLED display as well as the media controls. By default, the media controls will adjust volume as well as pause media. However, holding down the media key opens up a secondary menu. In this menu, you have access to preloaded profiles, keyboard illumination, and macros. When not in use, you can also customize what's actually shown on the OLED display. This includes pictures as well as GIFs. Now, when you talk about the Apex keyboards, you also have to talk about the SteelSeries GG software. If you're using PC or Mac with your Apex keyboard, I highly suggest downloading the SteelSeries GG software. This software allows you to really unlock the full potential of your keyboard. In addition to controlling the RGB lighting effects, you can also create custom profiles based on your usage. You can also customize the OLED screen, as I talked about before, and my favorite part is being able to connect to third-party applications. So by connecting these applications, it allows you to do cool things with the OLED screen as well as your keyboard. For example, if you install the Discord application, it gives you the ability to read messages on the OLED screen as well as use customized keys to mute, unmute yourself as well as other people in your party. Okay, let's finally get to the biggest difference between the Apex 7 and the Apex Pro, and that is the OmniPoint switches. Like I said earlier, the SteelSeries website states that the only difference between these 2 keyboards is their key switches. And the Apex Pro uses what's known as OmniPoint mechanical switches. These switches allow you to customize the sensitivity of the key presses on your keyboard. It should be noted that this only applies to the left-hand side of the keyboard here. So it's just this part here, and that's your main typing area. I would have actually preferred, it would have actually been really cool if SteelSeries made the entire keyboard full of OmniPoint switches, but you know, the main area is good enough for now. So why is this so special? Well, in traditional blue, red, and brown mechanical keyboard switches, a key press travels between 2mm and 4mm before the computer or keyboard actually registers a key press. This is also known as the actuation point. However, for the Apex Pro, a user can actually adjust the sensitivity or the actuation point based on their needs. This means that you can have your keys travel as little as 0.4mm or all the way down to 3.6mm to register an actuation. In practical terms, what does this mean? Well, for me, there are two main scenarios where I use my keyboard. That is day-to-day typing as well as gaming. In my day-to-day typing, I tend to type pretty quickly, and having to press the key all the way down to 3.6mm can really slow down my productivity and can be pretty tiring to your fingers as well. So having the ability to adjust the actuation from 3.6mm to, let's say, 1.5mm can help me actually type faster and doesn't wear down my fingers as quickly. Now, when you're gaming, accidental key presses can be frustrating. When I play Call of Duty, for example, an accidental key press can lead to missed shots or unwanted character actions. But with OmniPoint switches, I can actually adjust my keyboard sensitivity so that the most important keys are the more sensitive keys, while the keys that I don't want to be pressed are less sensitive. This means that I can spend more time focusing on having fun and playing my games and less on worrying about my accidental key presses. So my final thoughts on the Apex Pro and the Apex 7. Both are fantastic keyboards for anyone looking to boost their gaming or even productivity. Between the two, I would say that the Apex Pro has a slight edge, and that's because the typing on the Apex Pro was incredibly smooth, and I love the ability to actually adjust the actuation of the keys based on what I'm doing. If you don't find yourself needing to adjust the actuation of your keys and you like the feel of either brown, blue, or red switches, then I wholeheartedly recommend you give the Apex 7 a shot. Well, that's all for this video. If you'd like to know more about the Apex 7 and the Apex Pro keyboards, go ahead and check out my in-depth review on the Best Buy blog. If you'd like to see what else I'm up to, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at pewx31 or on Facebook and YouTube at pewx3. Thanks again, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video.